He had ruled Germany for 12 years. Now he sat in a concrete bunker 50 feet underground, hands trembling, face pale, listening to Soviet artillery shake the ceiling above him. In 48 hours, Adolf Hitler would be gone. A wedding with ill-fitting rings, a testament likely written by someone else, a cremation that failed. This is how it ended. By late April 1945, Hitler's Reich existed mostly on paper. The Soviets had reached Berlin. The Western Allies were pushing through Germany, and the man who once commanded millions now controlled little more than a few city blocks, an underground complex beneath the Reich Chancellery. The Führerbunker had been built in two phases, first in 1936, then expanded in 1944. Hitler moved in permanently on January 16, 1945. He would spend a total of 105 days underground. The space was cramped, the air stale, and the water supply failing. Expensive carpets covered the floors, and artwork from the Chancellery lined the walls, including Hitler's favorite painting of Frederick the Great, which hung above his desk. But no amount of decoration could hide the reality. This was a tomb in waiting. The bunker consisted of two connected levels. The upper level, known as the Führerbunker, housed staff and service areas. The lower level, the Führerbunker proper, contained Hitler's private quarters, a map room, and a small conference space. The concrete ceiling was several meters thick, designed to withstand direct hits. Outside, Berlin was being reduced to rubble. Inside, the regime conducted its final business. By April 28, the situation was beyond recovery. Soviet forces had advanced to within 500 meters of the bunker. The Schlesische railway station had fallen. The Tiergarten was in enemy hands. Martin Bormann sent a telegram to Admiral Karl Dönitz that captured the moment in 6 words: Reich Chancellery, a heap of rubble. That same day, General Hans Krebs made his last phone call from the bunker. He told Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel that everything would be lost if relief did not arrive within 48 hours. Keitel promised to exert pressure on Generals Walter Wenck and Theodor Busse. The relief never came. Both armies were either encircled or forced onto the defensive. On April 28, Hitler received news that shattered what remained of his trust in his inner circle. Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS and one of the most powerful men in the Reich, had secretly approached the Western Allies through Swedish intermediaries to negotiate surrender. Hitler considered this the ultimate betrayal. He ordered Himmler's arrest and had Hermann Fegelein, Himmler's SS representative in Berlin, court-martialed and executed. Fegelein was Eva Braun's brother-in-law. It made no difference. It was against this backdrop of collapse and betrayal that Hitler made a decision that surprised even those closest to him. Shortly after midnight on April 29th, a city official named Walter Wagner was summoned to the bunker. His task, to officiate a marriage ceremony. The bride was Eva Braun, Hitler's companion of 14 years. In less than 40 hours, she would be dead beside him. The ceremony took place in a small map room. Wagner asked both parties to confirm they were of pure Aryan descent and free of hereditary disease. Both answered yes. The rings were exchanged. According to some accounts, they had been taken from the possessions of prisoners. They did not fit properly. Witnesses later noted that Wagner appeared almost as excited as the bride, a strange detail given the circumstances. When Eva signed the marriage certificate, she began writing her maiden name out of habit. She crossed it out and wrote Eva Hitler instead. After 14 years of secrecy, muscle memory betrayed her at the final moment. A small reception followed in the bunker's conference room. Champagne was served. Hitler drank mineral water. Those present described the atmosphere as heavy with gloom. Secretary Gerda Christian later recalled that she left early because she could not stand the mood. Hitler spoke mostly of the past, of better times. He mentioned that the wedding had been an emotional experience, but added that for him only death would mean a release from his many worries. And then for the first time in front of his staff, he admitted what everyone already knew: the war was lost. The marriage lasted less than 40 hours. Later that night, Hitler summoned his secretary, Traudl Junge, to a private room. He had something to dictate. There was urgency in his voice. Junge later recalled feeling a sense of anticipation. After years at his side, would she finally hear an explanation, a reflection on what had gone wrong, an admission of regret? She received neither. What Hitler dictated was a political testament filled with the same accusations and rhetoric he had repeated for decades. No acknowledgement of defeat, no admission of responsibility. Junge later described the moment as deeply disappointing. After years at his side, she had hoped for something more, an explanation, perhaps, or a hint of reflection. Instead, she typed the same accusations she had heard for years. The same old enemies, the same old blame. She finished typing and handed the document to Josef Goebbels around 5 in the morning. Historians have since examined the document closely. James O'Donnell, author of The Bunker, compared the writing style to both Hitler's and Goebbels' known patterns. He concluded that Goebbels likely helped compose the text. The testament contained Latin phrases Goebbels used frequently, but Hitler never did. Witnesses confirmed that Hitler was reading from notes while dictating. His hand trembled too severely to write properly. 3 copies were made. 3 couriers were assigned to carry them out of Berlin, ensuring the words would survive even if the city did not. The couriers were Heinz Lorenz, Hitler's deputy press attaché, Wilhelm Zander, Bormann's adjutant, and Willy Johann Meyer, Hitler's army adjutant. All 3 eventually fell into Allied hands. The documents were authenticated by the FBI and placed on display at the National Archives in April 1946. The testament was not a confession. It was propaganda. That same morning, news reached the bunker that Benito Mussolini and his mistress Clara Petacci had been captured and executed by Italian partisans. Their bodies had been hung upside down in a public square in Milan. Hitler reportedly said little, but those who saw his face understood. He had made his decision. At 5 o'clock on April 30th, artillery fire woke everyone in the bunker. Within the hour, Hitler appeared in the corridor. He wore a dressing gown and slippers. His eyes were bloodshot. His face was puffy. Staff members noted he looked like a man who had already accepted the end. General Helmut Weidling, commander of the Berlin defense area, delivered a final briefing. The garrison would run out of ammunition by nightfall. Organized resistance would collapse within 24 hours. There was nothing left to defend. Hitler made his final decisions that morning. His Alsatian dog Blondie was given a cyanide capsule. The reason, according to multiple accounts, was to test whether the poison worked. Hitler feared the SS had supplied him with fake capsules. Blondie collapsed within seconds. Her puppies and the 2 other dogs were dealt with by their handler shortly after. The poison worked. Hitler then distributed cyanide capsules to his secretaries. He expressed regret that he could not offer them a better parting gift. He added that he wished his generals had been as loyal and reliable as they were. In the early hours, approximately 20 staff members gathered in the corridor. Hitler emerged from his private quarters, moved down the line, shook hands and spoke briefly with each person. Then he returned to his room. Most assumed his death was imminent. It was not. Morning came. Hitler continued receiving military briefings as though anything still mattered. At around 2 in the afternoon, he sat down for lunch with 2 secretaries and his personal cook, a quite unremarkable final meal. Then he rose and said, "The time has come. It's all over." The real farewells began. Hitler and Eva Braun said goodbye to those who remained: Josef Goebbels, Martin Bormann, the secretaries, the adjutants. Magda Goebbels, in tears, reportedly begged him to leave Berlin. He refused. Goebbels himself, who had long insisted Hitler stay in the capital, now urged him to flee. Hitler refused again. Around 3:30, Adolf and Eva Hitler entered his private study. SS Sturmbannführer Otto Gunscher took up position outside the door. Inside, the couple were alone. What happened next has been reconstructed from what others observed afterward. No one witnessed the moment itself. At some time, valet Heinz Linger approached the door. He detected the smell of gunpowder. When he and Bormann entered the study, they found Hitler slumped on a sofa, a wound to his right temple. Blood had pooled on the armrest and dripped onto the carpet. A Walter PPK pistol lay at his feet. Eva Braun sat beside him, motionless, no visible injuries. She had taken cyanide. Gunscher entered shortly after. He later stated that Hitler had shot himself. Linger noted the scent of burnt almonds, characteristic of hydrogen cyanide, suggesting Hitler may have bitten down on a capsule simultaneously. Gunscher then walked into the corridor and announced to those waiting, Hitler was dead. The exact sequence remains debated among historians. What is certain is that both were deceased by approximately 3:30 on the afternoon of April 30th, 1945. SS personnel wrapped Hitler's body in a blanket and carried it up the stairs, through the bunker's emergency exit and into the Reich Chancellery garden. Eva Braun's body followed. She wore a blue silk dress. One witness noted her hair was artificially blonde. The bodies were placed in a shallow hole in the garden and doused with petrol. A match was lit. A small group of staff members stood briefly at attention, raised their arms in salute, then retreated inside as Soviet shells continued falling nearby. The deep boom of artillery lent an eerie rhythm to the scene. The cremation did not go as planned. The fire struggled to consume the remains fully. Additional petrol was poured repeatedly over the following hours. Even then, the destruction was incomplete. Witnesses report that charred remains, including visible bones, were still present after several hours, not the clean disappearance often depicted in films. As Soviet troops approached the bunker perimeter, the remains were placed into a shell crater and covered with earth. Soviet forces discovered the remains days later. The bodies were exhumed, examined, and transported to the Soviet Union. According to declassified reports, the remains were later moved to Magdeburg in East Germany. In 1970, KGB officers reportedly destroyed what was left, retaining only fragments for identification purposes. A jawbone and skull fragments were preserved and later displayed in Moscow in 2000. News of Hitler's death was broadcast on German radio on May 1, 1945. Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz, named as Hitler's successor in the testament, announced the death and assumed leadership of what remained of the Reich. But confirmation of how Hitler died took longer to establish. In June 1945, Soviet officials publicly stated that Hitler's body had not been found. The claim was false, but it ignited years of conspiracy theories. British intelligence assigned historian Hugh Trevor Roper to investigate. His task was to establish beyond doubt that Hitler had died in Berlin. Trevor Roper interviewed surviving staff members, examined captured documents, and compiled a report that formed the basis of his 1947 book, The Last Days of Hitler. His conclusion: Hitler had taken his own life in the bunker on April 30th. Traudl Junge, the secretary who typed Hitler's final testament, lived until 2002. She admitted she had been fascinated by Hitler, that she had found him a pleasant employer. Her memoir and the documentary Blind Spot captured her attempts to reconcile memory with historical truth. She died shortly after the film was completed. The bunker was demolished. The witnesses are dead. What survived were their words and the paperwork they left behind. For more on the figures who shaped the Reich's final moments, watch our videos about Wilhelm Mohnke, the SS general who defended Hitler to the end. Thanks for watching. Like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell for more History Inside. And we'll see you in the next one.